Check. So now we will hear from our Muslim Abdu and Mr. Rajab. Feel free to jump in if you think of a point.
Hey guys, my name is Abdul. I'm the worst part preparing for speeches. So I'm going to take this, put it away. Because it makes no sense now since I'm sitting here. I can't think of a better place to talk about the topic of building bridges than this church actually in town. And there are many reasons for that. If you look at the history of the desegregation of schools, it started here. The history of this church, how it started. The history of this church, how it developed, how rich it is in history and in culture. Building bridges is something that's really dear to my heart. Now, I'm going to give you my personal recipe for building bridges. It starts by you recognizing that you have to be selfless. If you're not willing to do this, you can't build bridges. This is what every one of us has to realize. Second thing, you have to start with your house. If you're not willing to work with your family to become that one side of the bridge, there'll be no foundation for it. You can't move forward. The next, which is crucial, a bridge has to be for everybody. You can't build a bridge for just your family or your friends or your relatives or your bubble or whatever you call it. So if you want to build a bridge, if you're serious about building a bridge, it's not about you. It's about serving others. It's not about building a bridge for one purpose or two purposes. It could be for a purpose that you have no clue what it is yet. You're building bridges for the purpose of opening the channel to the other end and let it come and merge with yours and bring out something better. That's what building bridges is. It comes from my heart because in my faith, Islam, it tells me repeatedly that I have to stand up firmly for justice for all.
Amen.
It tells me that I have to stand up firmly for equality for all.
Amen.
It tells me that I have to stand up firmly for love and compassion to all.
Amen.
This is my faith, and that's the faith that I would use. These are the pillars I would use to build my bridge. A bridge that's blind to color. A bridge that's blind to race, to sex, to anything else. The next step needed for building a bridge is for you to be willing to do good work with others that you may disagree with. On one thing, two things, 10 things, 100 things, but you agree with them that this is good. And therefore, we're going to build it. We're going to help you build it. So the bridge does not also have to be yours. And we go back to what I started, being selfless. So if you start building a bridge and you realize the Coast Patrol is having a better bridge with the refugees, so I'm going to stop building and I'm going to join them. You realize that this group or that group is doing a better job, so I'm going to have to join that group and help them build a better bridge. And I can build a different bridge that's lacking in my community. Then all of us together as one community can bring the best out of our own city. And that is why the Rutherford County Interfaith Council was dear to my heart when it started. And that is why I personally believe that alone I can do so much, but it will stop at one point. But together we can start giving, and that giving would just continue like a creek, like a river. It won't stop. Thank you.
Tolerance. So I had the good fortune of being appointed to Key Memorial United Methodist Church. And there's a rich historical milieu here. Abdul talked about the desegregation of Murfreesboro schools. Paul Marchbanks, Brother Paul, will you raise your hand? He desegregated Rutherford County schools in 1960. Can you imagine what that took? And our church was mysteriously burned down 2 years later, and we still, and so we wound up here. So this is where I was appointed. I'm delighted. But when we talk about tolerance, that's kind of loaded language because it assumes power, right? And so I don't want you to tolerate me Because you tolerate flies in your kitchen until you can kill them, right? I want you to accept me in the fullness of my humanity, right? And that I do that for and with you. So it also assumes someone owns the table. And for me, this is God's table. We are God's people, and this is God's world. And so we all come to this table fully human. And there's nothing that anyone can do to dehumanize or to default on their humanity. And there's nothing that we can do to place any human being outside the human family. And when we begin to do that, we begin to die ourselves. So as we are seeking our divinity, it is through our humanity that we make these bridges. Also, I want to give my last minute to Holly because I wanted her to be able to speak, and she didn't get her time.
That was because of me.
That's okay. I'm not blaming.
Well, I want to read something. We have a local rabbi here in Murfreesboro. We don't even have a synagogue, but we have a teaching rabbi and a writing rabbi named Rabbi Shapiro. I don't know if some of you may know him. And he wrote something so beautiful, and I think it's appropriate for me to read this. To me, religions are like languages. No language is true or false. All languages are of human origin. Each language reflects and shapes the civilization that speaks it. There are things you can say in one language that you just can't say as well in another. And the more languages you learn, the more nuanced your understanding of life becomes. Judaism is my mother tongue, yet in the matters of the spirit, I strive to be multilingual. In the end, the deepest language of the soul is silence.